Okay, not the same pumpkin as Halloween Town, but you get the gist. Hello, and happy spooky season to all of you. If you clicked on this video, I'm pretty sure that you are familiar with what the term DCOM means, but in case you don't, DCOM stands for Disney Channel Original Movie. I indeed was a Disney kid growing up, but I actually hadn't seen a lot of the movies on this list. If you've seen my video from last year, where I went through all of my favorite Halloween movies, you'll know that even now, Alex of today is a straight up weenie. Well, when I was a kid growing up on those DCOMs, it was 10 times worse, I can tell you that. Having one finger hovering over the last channel button on the TV remote to quickly switch channels as soon as something, anything, even remotely scary would come on. All of that to say, I finally got around to watching a lot of these movies. I ranked these from worst to best. We're just gonna go straight in. We're gonna crush them like some crushed garlic cloves to ward off those vampires. I very quickly discovered that there was no way anything was gonna be worse than this movie, and I was right. This girl, whose name I cannot even remember because I cared about the movie that little, her parents are monster hunters, and she discovers that and has to save them or something. When I tell you that the villains in this movie were the worst thing I've ever seen.
Oh, no.
I needed more strength than I had when I started watching this. That's all I'll say, okay? Anyway, the whole, concept is supposed to be that this girl is, not afraid of anything, and then she loses her fearlessness and then has to regain it. It would have made way more sense if either one, the main character started out scared and then learned to be fearless, or on the other hand, if she would have just known she was a monster hunter the whole time and that was a fun little secret she kept from her friends or something, and that explained why she was so perfect and good at everything. I don't know. The dialogue was terrible, nothing was funny, the main character was incredibly annoying. I'm not gonna have one nice thing to say about this movie, which is why it's at the very bottom, and I would just prefer if we spent more time talking about movies that I did like on this list. So let's move on. The whole time it just felt like they were trying to recreate the success of Descendants with this series. Descendants and make it Halloween in the very least Halloween way possible, I might add, because other than the fact that there are zombies, it doesn't feel spooky. Most of the story takes place in the normal people area of this town, where zombies and humans are separated, and there's a Romeo and Juliet thing going on, and they try to teach the city to become unified again and get over their prejudices. I don't know, I didn't feel spooks with this. Probably because the entire human world in this universe is all bright pinks and bright greens. Also, I wrote down here, because I kept hard copy notes this time, as you'll see, there were a lot of thoughts. Too much white boy rapping. I wish I could forget what I was watching when I wrote that down. Also, the ending really bothered me. The main obstacle in this conflict is getting the teenagers to get along. And once the teenagers have gotten along in this world, the adults just follow. I just realized I forgot to put I'm so sorry. Well, if you're wondering, is Zombies 2 any different than Zombies 1? Well, just read the synopsis for the first movie and add werewolves. The cheerleaders who run the high school, which is filled with teenagers that apparently run this city. Yeah, those cheerleaders are still not happy with the zombies. The main girl, Addison, yes. Well, clearly it was better than Girl vs. Monster, because I remembered her name and I did not remember that other bitch's name, so. She was also super annoying though. not a whole lot better. Also, now we've upgraded from one white boy rapping to two white boys rap battling each other like this is Hamilton or something. All I wrote down was that the plot seemed marginally more interesting because of the addition of the werewolves. I'm not sure if that was just because the plot seemed more interesting or because it was getting more confusing and therefore more in some way. So I was trying to find the original Under Wraps. I saw that a new Under Wraps remake was going to be added the next day. I don't think it was a happy accident. I think it was quite a sad accident, really, and I kind of wished I would have finished this video before this movie came out so I didn't have to watch it. But here we are. This movie is about, well, two friends and then one new friend that they make. So it's three kids, okay, who find a mummy who comes to life and they befriend the mummy and they have to get the mummy back in time so that he can continue being dead. I think they did a pretty good job in terms of it being a remake. Not much was new and inventive from the first one other than, oh no, the mummy accidentally turns on voice assist and freaks itself out. The mummy is scared of the Roomba. Oh no. Also, another reason that this one is so low is I just have a problem with the concept in general of mummies being a Halloween monster. Mummies are actually real things. They're preserved dead bodies. It feels a bit like very culturally disrespectful to turn mummies into a Halloween monster joke. I don't know, is that just me? I've always felt very uncomfortable with that. Even the ending, like, of this movie, the kid says at the end, I always thought it'd be cool to meet a real live monster. Be happy he can't understand a goddamn word you're saying because the disrespect is through the roof, kid. Phantom of the Megaplex is definitely the most misleading out of anything on this list. I was bamboozled, and I don't want you to be bamboozled too, so I'm gonna tell you what it's about. You think it's gonna be Phantom of the Opera. It's not really. It's about this kid who works at a movie theater. I'm sorry, a megaplex. All these hijinks are ensuing at the theater. They don't know what's happening. It's supposed to be this big movie premiere night. Of course, nothing's going right. Everything's going wrong. They have to figure out who is haunting the megaplex. I mean, okay, it has something to do with the beginning of Phantom of the Opera where they think there's some kind of spirit haunting the theater. But not the entire rest of Phantom of the Opera. Just the name is very misleading, and it really has nothing to do with Halloween. None of the things that happen even feel like a haunting. It just feels like pranks that anybody could play. So the fact that anyone thinks that this is a real ghost is kind of crazy. Wait, is that Skeezy Jason from Mean Girls? It is. It's him. It's May I Butter Your Muffin, Jason.
So you can go shave your back now. Bye, Jason.
Yeah, this is definitely the least Halloween movie on this entire list. The action did kind of wind up at the end. I remember there was a giant dinosaur that our hero deflated with a fake sword. If that interests you, if that sounds exciting. This movie was about two sisters, one who is #not like other girls. She complains all the time about how nobody notices her, nobody pays attention to her. We get it. I don't know, she's a science nerd and she makes a potion that she makes her twin invisible. She has to live in her place for the day because it's a super important day for her popular sister. I mean, I don't consider invisibility a true Halloween theme. Sorry to the Invisible Man. But since it takes place during Halloween, it gets a pass. It's a lot more of a Halloween movie than, Phantom of the Megaplex. Although to that point, I definitely don't agree that just because a movie takes place during a certain holiday, that it should be classified as a movie of that holiday. There was some pretty decent acting in this movie, I would say. It's obviously not Oscar level, it's still a DCOM, but I did find it really distracting though. The sister was supposed to be invisible, and yet people kept looking directly at her eye line every time they were talking to her, like, you can't see her. It really broke the immersion that she was supposed to be invisible at all. I grew up with the first and the second Halloween Town movies, and I think I remember watching the Return to Halloween Town maybe once. I don't think I had ever seen Halloween Town High. It did not spark any memories in me, so I think this was my first time watching it. I mean, I'm sorry to you Halloween Town stans, but this one did not do it for me. I did not want a Halloween Town movie taking place in the human world. I get it with what the concept was. After the second Halloween Town movie, Marnie has opened the portal between the two worlds. She wants to basically convince Halloween Town that humans have changed and monsters could live among them and humans would be more accepting. She wants to organize this exchange program for Halloween Town teens to join human high school. Because it was set in the human world, it was so boring until the very end. It was very anticlimactic how they revealed the whodunits. It would have been more interesting to have a bit of a reveal at the end that might have made it more exciting. I did love seeing the High School Musical peeps though, pre-High School Musical fame. In this spot, we have the original Under Wraps, which was the very first DCOM ever to be released in 1997. It is so disrespectful that it is not on Disney Plus. Honestly, it's pretty interesting to the Disney Channel legacy that the first attempt that they would make at releasing an original movie on TV would be a Halloween movie. Plot-wise, it's very similar to the remake, which I just talked about, but it is higher up because it is a lot funnier. The old school Disney movie format, I don't know, they put in a lot more adult jokes in them. I don't know if just because they thought they could get away with them, or if they didn't really have the formula down for what the tone of these movies was gonna be. Also, anything that makes a movie really dated does not age well as much as if you did the physical humor without those things, which I think the original does a little bit better. There's still some of that, but in the original, like, the mummy goes through the drive-thru, like he tries to walk through the drive-thru and order food. It was really funny. And in the original, the mummy is played by the voice of Patrick. Honestly, I'm gonna put the two of these movies together. I don't know if I can rank one higher than the other. There were hits and misses on both. These were actually movies that I was really into growing up. I was probably so into them because one of the twins' names is Alex, and I'm a narcissist, I guess. So the Twitch's duology, I guess you could call it, is about twin sisters, Alex and Cameron, played by Tia and Tamara Mowry. Queens of DCOM, queens of, I don't know, twindom. And it is about them discovering that they are witches from this magical other dimensional realm. They have to help their birth mother save this realm. And it's also mostly about them meeting each other for the first time because they were separated at birth. I probably should have said that they were separated at birth. Looking back at these with fresh eyes, the CGI be rough. I guess everything looked passable back then to my 9-year-old eyes staring at a 12 square inch TV far across the room. The acting is better in this one than some of the others. Tia and Tamara Mowry are obviously real life twins, and so there's a level of chemistry there acting together. It's even better than them though is the side character banter. I guess you could call them the twins' guardians. Yeah, they were funny. All their banter was really enjoyable, which is why the second movie is a little bit worse in that respect. They recast the woman. The chemistry is gone. It's so bad that this must have been the very best take they could possibly get with the boom mic in frame. The second one is a little better than the first in plot. Plot is a bit more interesting and the mystery is a bit more whirlwind. I honestly couldn't remember from watching it as a kid what happened, and it kind of threw me for a loop because I totally thought one thing was gonna happen at the end and then that didn't happen, which I kind of liked my version of events better, but hey, it still provided like a surprise ending, which was nice. Also, I just wrote a note that says Snickerdoodles. Snickerdoodles! So that's fun. Also, something I forgot to say while recording this is that something that totally wigged me out watching these movies growing up, and even more so now, is that the villain in these movies, and yes, that really isn't much of a spoiler for the first movie because, I mean, come on. And we have this local hospital in my hometown that used to do these TV spots, and they used this actor for their TV spots. So I want you just to see like a tidbit of one of these commercials.
The average length of stay in a hospital to have a baby is about 2 days that you feel safe just being around them. Welcome to Bell and Health.
Yeah, so needless to say, seeing this guy as a cartoon-ish villain bent on the destruction of these two twins was quite weird. Just a weird tidbit of information. So, yeah. This one's probably gonna tie me to the stake. Honestly, I don't know what possessed me. Maybe I deserve to be tied to the stake. Maybe I need an exorcism. Okay, first, let me just get it out of the way and say yes, I wholeheartedly agree, and everybody knows that it is complete slander that they recast Marnie. So disrespectful. I hate it. It was kind of a fun time. I don't know. Maybe it's because this one came out around the same exact time as High School Musical. It's just a brand of awful that I'm familiar with that feels comforting to me. Bad, but in a fun way. Yeah, but well, plot-wise, in a nutshell, this movie is kind of a continuation and also does not feel like a continuation of the original trilogy. Marnie is now college age and she gets accepted to go to college in Halloween Town. She brings her brother Dylan along, who I guess is supposed to be comedic relief in every one of these movies, and she discovers that she's the key to this prophecy or something, and she has to unlock this relic for the people that work at the university, but they're all bad. Again, similar to the third movie, it would have been nice if we could have kept the identity of the villains under wraps. I mean, they just throw it right out there. They just tell you right at the beginning that these people are bad news, and you just have that knowledge for the entire movie. You know, Marnie doesn't have that knowledge. It would have been nice if we could have been in the dark too as a viewer. To circle back to the recasting issue, so I'm sure there was just like hype around having a big name star in their movie. But if they wanted to do that, I propose that like they could have done that and even still use Sarah Paxton, but had a storyline around a grown-up Sophie. Especially because the actress that plays Sophie in the first 3 movies, she wasn't in the 4th movie. I think Marnie's storyline kind of made a natural end with the 3rd movie. And if they wanted to continue making Halloween Town movies, they could have with a different Cromwell witch. But you know, I'm sorry guys, like I don't know what to tell you. I thought the plot was way more exciting in this one than the 3rd, even if the casting is blasphemous. Lucas Grabeel character gets a clear upgrade in status because now he's High School Musical famous, and so he becomes like the love interest.
Healthy appetite. I like that girl.
The other guy from the last one was shooed off, toot sweet. And speaking of casting choices, that's Margot from The Magicians, which that was a fun little discovery. But not gonna lie, it was a lot more fun being back in Halloween Town, and that had a lot to do with why this one is higher than Halloween Town High. Okay, before you guys all get the pitchforks out, let's just move on. This one was a nice surprise. I'd never even heard about this movie, and from the opening titles, I got very excited right away because I saw, ooh, Kat Dennings, and then, ooh, Eric Idle. I can get on board with this. So there's a very different vibe to start with right off the bat with this movie. These two kids with their grandfather. It's like a home movie style. And then the whole movie backs out to you realizing that the kids are watching this at their grandfather's funeral. So that's really sad to start. They discover that there are ghosts and there is I guess you could call it a processing facility for ghosts. They find out that their grandfather is somehow stuck. He cannot move on, and so they have to help him. Without spoiling too much, that's about what I can give you. But it was a really compelling storyline. It was a little bit slow at points, but I still found it really interesting. The only other thing that lowered the score of this one was the lack of the actual ghosts. The top billed ghosts too. I mean, you've got Eric Idle. I can never pronounce her name. Catherine Nejimi? I don't know. Mary from Hocus Pocus. Yeah, and these three ghosts are on the advertising graphic for the movie. They're not really in it much. So I think if they could have been incorporated into the story a bit better, maybe like if one of them had knowledge from their past life that they could help the kids, I guess that would have been nice, because they're kind of just there. Like, Eric Idle's in it the most out of the three main ghosts, and he doesn't do a lot except stand behind the kids and follow the kids and add some jokes here and there, but he doesn't do a whole lot. Now, I was quite surprised that Halloween Town 2 could even make it into the number 4 spot, because it got -1,000,000 points for this face, this stone face.
Oh my god, what is that? Oh my god! What is that?
This is the most haunting thing on this list. I just wanted you to know that it exists, and if you hadn't seen it before now, you're welcome. May it haunt your dreams for the rest of time as it will mine. Oh god, how do I explain this one? There's a lot going on. Well, it's Calabar's revenge, so you can probably guess who the villain is from the first movie if you've never seen the first movie. Sorry about that. But it's actually not Calabar himself that's getting revenge. It's his son. I don't love that. He's not a very threatening villain presence. He just comes off as a snotty teenage boy who has read Ernest Hemingway one too many times. But thankfully he's not in it too much. He does a good little villain check-in once in a while to check on Marnie and how she's doing and if she's failing, and to mock her. But otherwise we don't have to see him too much until the very end. Basically, this movie is about Calabar's son trying to get revenge and turn humans into monsters. This still was a lot more interesting than I remembered it being. I don't think I caught most of what was going on when I watched this as a kid. I probably only had the stone face in my memory, because that has been burned in and will never leave. And now it'll never leave you either. So many famous parental figures from the 90s and 2000s. I was geeking. I was loving it. You got the dad from The Nanny. You got Aunt Hilda from Sabrina. Not that Sabrina. I mean, she was also in that Sabrina for like a cameo thing, but really what I meant was this Sabrina and Lizzie McGuire's dad. So aside from those winners, who really do add to the acting value, in my opinion, I think they all did a really great job. The acting is pretty great by the kids in this movie too. Especially this main kid. He was great. Anyway, this movie is about 3 kids and their mom, who is divorced. The 2 eldest kids want to go out. They have places to be this one night, but they get grounded for various reasons. To get their mom out of the house, they try to set her up on a date. And wouldn't you know it, they accidentally set her up on a date with a vampire. Ah, such is life. The part I loved probably the most was that the climax and conflict of the movie only takes place because the vampire guy is forced to hypnotize and charm this woman because he can't just convince her to come back to his house, because she just fully shuts him down like, no, you know what? I don't think we're meant for each other. I don't think we're compatible. I just honestly had such a good time tonight rediscovering myself. And you know what? Honestly, good for her. We love to see her thriving. I'd never seen this one before either. This one for good reason though. If I would have watched this when I was a kid, I'd probably still have nightmares. But all of that aside, you should watch it. I know I'm not making it very convincing right now. This movie is about this girl, Frances. Weird things keep happening in the city where she lives. She's getting blamed for them, but the boogeyman is really to blame. So again, with a lot of these other movies, there is a moral or theme of facing your fears. It was not well done in some of the other movies, but in this one, it makes sense because it's the boogeyman. And facing your fears makes sense in the context of this story because what Frances is trying to overcome is very deep and very scary. There's emotional turmoil going on. I was really impressed with how serious the subject matter got. It was really heavy at times. Frances meets Larry, and he is an imaginary friend. You discover like how imaginary friends come to be, and then also how they are kind of connected to the boogeyman. There's this lore going on. Even visually, this feels very different than other Disney Channel movies. Very whimsical, very kind of crazy, almost reminds you of like maybe like a Goosebumps, something to that effect. Wow! Is anybody surprised? I went into this list knowing that I hadn't seen most of them, but knowing that I really wanted to set aside my bias, but I still had that knowledge in the back of my head knowing that this movie usually tops all the Halloween DCOM lists, like consistently. I wanted to give the other movies I hadn't seen a chance because I didn't know. Maybe one of them would surprise me, and a lot of them did surprise me and ended up high up on this list. But there's a reason that this movie is the Halloween DCOM of all Halloween DCOMs. I think one of the biggest things it has going for it is that it has amazing practical effects and makeup. So good. I mean, instead of relying on a lot of CGI, which they still used, a little bit of that, really relying on making Halloween Town come to life through the use of prosthetics and makeup, making all these crazy fun Halloween Town characters. The sibling banter is really charming and very believable. Also, this movie was the start of something beautiful, and that is the fact that everybody fell in love with the idea of Debbie Reynolds as their grandma. It's just such a good mix all around. I don't know why this wasn't in my top 10 Halloween movies faves. It really should have been. It will be in future. I'm gonna go back to watching this every year because I remembered how great it is. That's all of them. I would love to know what you guys think and what your favorite Halloween DCOM is. I was very happy to be pleasantly surprised with a lot of new watches on this list and movies that I would watch again. Even though Halloween isn't my favorite holiday, I still love to watch movies that can get me in the mood during this time and ease me into autumn. So we have like a nice transition into Christmas time, and that's all good. But I'm just taking my time and appreciating the season, and I hope you are too. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you guys again very soon. Bye.